Hello, I met some of you earlier. My name is Nick Sines, and I'm the Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs here at Adams State, and I have the fortune of overseeing the Salazar Rio Grande del Norte Center. Our next presenter actually has a film, so I'm going to introduce Arcee and then invite her to say a little bit about the film. So, an award-winning film director, Aracely Chapa, obtained her undergraduate degree at Texas Tech University and pursued graduate studies in Louisiana before turning to film. Some of you may know her as the host, I believe former host and executive producer of In Focus on New Mexico PBS. She is the recipient of the prestigious National Press Club Award for Investigative Environmental Reporting and 5 Emmy Awards for documentary filmmaking. Chapa currently serves as the manager of multimedia services for the Center for Regional Studies at the University of New Mexico. So please join me in welcoming Aracely Chapa.
Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today and so honored to have been invited to present this film. As Nick said, I am with the University of New Mexico Center for Regional Studies. We're a small unit on campus that is state funded. We just found out what our allocation was for this year, and we're we're happy that we weren't cut. But but our mission is to create new sources of knowledge about New Mexico and the Southwest and the Americas. And we do that through providing fellowships and scholarships to students who are researching in those areas and through filmmaking, which is where I come in. And this film was funded by the state. I started lobbying for it back in 2013, and they finally sponsored a bill in 2017, and I started working in earnest on it in 2019. So it kind of takes time to get things going for some reason. But anyway, right before COVID, I started working on this. So it made it kind of difficult, but we succeeded. Everybody cooperated. We had a great time shooting some of the images that you'll see here. And the film has been screened since, let's see, January of last year was the premiere at the National Hispanic Cultural Center to an audience of 700 people. And since then, all of 2023, I screened it maybe 2 or 3 times a month. And this is not me calling out people saying, can I show my film? Can I show? No, people were calling me all year long. And it hasn't stopped. And you know, I'm a little exhausted, but I'm so happy about it because there's a hunger for it. People are desperate to see this film. Even Eastern New Mexico State in Portales, New Mexico, they did a big screening on it. Las Cruces, all northern New Mexico. Communities, Santa Fe screened it 3 or 4 times. It just made it into the Santa Fe Film Festival. And I'm not bragging about how much it's been screened. I'm just trying to say how, you know, people want to know about water. People want to talk about water. The only audience that I've not been able to really corner are state policymakers. And I did manage during the legislative session. It was funny that you mentioned you have 40 more days. This year, our session was 30 days. And it's every year, it's either 30 days or 60 days. So you have quite a bit of time. So and I did during the session leave a copy, a DVD to everyone at the state legislature. I just think, you know, people are wanting to bring the topic of water to the forefront. And I think it might have had some impact at this year's legislative session because I think I heard from the New Mexico Acequias Association that there were some successes with certain bills. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about presenting the film to you. Maya, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real honor again for me to be here because you are part of this film. And so I hope you enjoy it, and I will come up here to answer a few questions afterwards. Thank you so much. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Thank you again for sitting through the hour-long film. Again, it's an honor for me to be here. And it doesn't matter how many times I see it, I still get, you know, I have to wipe tears because it's just I'm just so glad that I was able to work on this film, produce it for New Mexico because it's important. And it has proved to help people have a greater appreciation for acequias. A lot of people have even changed careers. Parents who couldn't convince their kids to even acknowledge them or appreciate them are now working with their parents to become more involved with the acequias. But I'm here to take any questions. Would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for the film.
Mhm.
My name is Tom. I'm from Denver.
Mhm.
How far, if at all, has the idea of the acequias expanded? I mean, we've had a few centuries since they started. Are the concepts used in other places?
Well, actually, acequias were a part of water infrastructures in states from New Mexico as far west as California and Colorado. But New Mexico has been the only state that has, because of, you've seen how there's movement constantly. People are always seeking to protect the acequias. They've survived. There's one in Arizona, but it's a museum relic. And the rest of the states, they no longer exist. But from what I hear, there are some states that are trying to, there are existing infrastructures that they're trying to bring back to life. We're lucky in New Mexico that there are a lot of very passionate people about acequias. And that's why Paula said we have 700, you know, even 6-7 years ago, there were 1,000. So I'm hoping that this film will help somehow bring the conversation back to the table and have at least our policymakers understand their importance. And that's why I wanted to include the New Mexico State University's study on how the acequias recharge the aquifers and lift the water table. So hope that's helps with, you know, a greater appreciation anyway. Any other questions?
It was a wonderful film. And do you have copies here that we can buy, and what do they cost? And
Oh, wow. You know, I can get copies to Adams State University, and I didn't bring any with me, but we do, because I was in Santa Fe the past week, so I wasn't able to go back home and bring some, but I would be happy to offer some copies to anybody who wants it. But I think you can find it also on New Mexico PBS website. But I would love to offer some DVD copies for you. Hmm? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, it will, because they can see it online. Yeah, they can look it up on New Mexico PBS, and they can look at it online. Mhm.
Thanks, RC.
Sure.
Well done, by the
Th-
way.
Thank you.
Curious from a policy perspective, what might be on the horizon, or what would the Acequia Association, I don't know if you can speak on their behalf, but what would you be looking for from a policy consideration particularly in New Mexico?
Well, what I understand that Paula was looking for, she's basically looking for funding for infrastructure upkeep. Whether it's, I mean, people are kind of opposed to, you know, cement lining because it takes away from the recharging of the aquifer. But those are some of the things. And then to also help farmers, because I think that what legislators forget is that farmers are extremely important, because, you know, in a world of climate change in the future, we may not be able to rely on the truck getting the food to our communities. And the sooner we learn how to listen to our voices, you know, who understand how, and that's kind of why I focused on how people remember their lives back, you know, in their ancestors in the 1930s, how they bartered, they shared food, they never went hungry because they knew how to work the land and feed themselves. And that's something that we've kind of lost. And supporting farmers, and then youth education as well. New Mexico Acequia Association has a lot of youth programs where they're teaching youth how to clean the acequias, how to appreciate the acequias, and to continue to advocate for them, because they're constantly, as you heard on the film, they're under a lot of pressure. And I think that this year, that's why I went to the legislature to give everybody a film, because I've not been able to get them in an audience. I did have one at the New Mexico, the National Hispanic Cultural Center had another screening for me in May. And at that, a man from at the very back stood up and said, you know, I love the film, RC, but I'm left with a profound feeling of despair. And I was like, oh, well, and he said, because what do we do? How do we protect them? What are we doing? And turned out he was a senator. I didn't realize it until I was walking out of the theater. And he was like, what can I do? How can I help? I said, well, first of all, I would love to have all senators and representatives here as an audience to watch this film so that they can start a discussion about acequias, because, you know, farmers are the first ones to be attacked when they're talking about water. And who do we, you know, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District is now, you know, paying farmers not to farm, so that, you know, everybody's got to meet their compacts, as you were talking. So everybody's trying to figure out a way to do that. And so, you know, farmers are always looked as taking the lion's share of the water. And so those are the things that we're looking at, you know, farmers, infrastructure, and support the New Mexico Acequia Association with their programs.
Hey, thank you very much.
Mhm.
The history. So you can tell when somebody's new in the San Luis Valley and they ask, what's up with the compact? Why are we sending water to our neighbors to the south? And
Mhm.
so the history is very compelling.
Mhm.
Thank you for raising the awareness. The idea that there's so much that divides us beyond
Mhm.
politics, so much that divides us, that water could be the great convener.
Mhm.
Water is something that we could rally around and agree about. And of course, the agriculture piece, the conversation, but tying the water to the culture,
Mhm.
tying the water to more than just a commodity,
Mhm.
it creates lots of conversation. So
Mhm.
I've been thinking about the idea, can water actually bring us together in a better way? Water scarcity, certainly. And how are we going to meet the future population needs, the environmental needs, and then, of course, what are we going to have to eat along the way? So thank you for
Right.
sharing the film.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people seem to forget that farmers are the ones that feed us. And it was like I had the honor of being at a conference where Dolores Huerta was the speaker. And of course, she was the one who advocated with Cesar Chavez. And at the very end of the discussion, she said, "Okay, well, let me just put it this way. Who would you rather be stuck on an island with?" And this was a room full of attorneys. An attorney or a farmer. And there weren't many claps in the room. But we tend to forget, like Don Bustos talks about, you know, I wasn't able to get it in the film. The first cut of this film was almost 2 hours, but I had to cut it down to 56 minutes and 46 seconds exactly, because that's what PBS requires. But we had discussions of in all kinds of things, adjudications, and Don Bustos talked about how he wished there was, and this could be something that policymakers could work on, wish there was a program where they taught farming. They could, because it's an art. I mean, if you tried farming, you know, it's not easy. And growing food and Don, while I was on his shoot, I mean, he gave me like the scrappy blackberries that I could snack on while we were out there shooting. And I've never had a more amazing blackberry than the ones that were coming off of his farm. I was just like, you know, the whole time I was shooting this, I was getting emotional, and I get emotional because I'm just so glad that, you know, that people were so receptive in New Mexico. The folks in Santa Fe I had 3 screenings there, and I'm about to have one at the film festival, the Santa Fe Film Festival. But I had a group of retired citizens, and they were they were so cute. They were all, wealthy Santa Feans who were retired there, and they're like probably in their 70s and 80s, and they were all raising their hands like, well, how can I go help clean in Acequia? I don't have an Acequia, but what can we do? How can we help? How? And they've started, going to the Capitol and advocating, because the story of the Acequias in Santa Fe is a sad one. I also wanted to include that, because they disappeared, and we only have a few there that are just, again, sort of like, oh, look, that was the Acequia Madre of Santa Fe. But Taos folks are trying to keep that from happening. And I know that I went to a screening in Taos, and there were some people afterwards who came to me, and they're like, oh my God, this is so great. And one couple was from Denver, and they had just moved to Taos so that they could live near Miguel Santisteban, because they see Miguel as someone who is a visionary, who in times of hardship, potentially in the future, he will be one who would know how to farm. And you have someone like that here who is actually going to speak right after me. He is keeping the traditions alive. And I'm so excited that Arnie Valdez is going to speak after me and talk about the acequias here in New Mexico. So I don't know. Any other questions? Oh, yes. Yes. Sure. Thank you. Pretty close. Yeah, we had oh my gosh, at least, I mean, now it's not length of film, but it's more hours rather than minutes. But we shot a lot of footage that we had to look through, that we had to pick. I wanted to pick the best shots, so that, because I wanted the images to move people as much as the content and the commentary and the narrative. And it's so funny. Somebody asked me, because we showed this to a group of 90 people from FEMA who are in Mora right now, taking care of or looking at after the fires, renovating. And I thought they were going to be a hostile group, and they were so moved and said, the person who came to the who is I guess the boss lady of everybody, she came up to me afterwards, and she said, I've been around the world to disaster areas, and we go in there and we clean up and leave, but never have we encountered a group of people that is so passionate about their land, about their water. We've gotten resistance the whole time we've been here up in Mora, because people are like, no, you're destroying our acequias. And so I was so happy that this film did help FEMA at least inspire them to change their policies to include hiring 20 locals from the Mora area to help them with the recovery. I was just so happy about that.
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay, I saw somebody.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for that film. That was beautiful. Our valley is facing a real stark choice right now, and the pressure is to potentially dry up our mountain meadows and shut down the acequias and send that water down to the valley to support industrial agriculture.
Mm.
And I really think you illustrated how intertwined we are with the natural environment, the sustainable systems that have been developed in the mountains for hundreds of years,
Mhm.
and how also it's intertwined with wildlife and tourism and just the reason we live here.
Mhm.
And I just want to thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, it has changed. It has changed a lot of minds in New Mexico, and in 2 weeks from now, I'm showing it to a theater full of kids. I did some clips because I don't think they could sit through water law, but but I picked some clips, and I'm really excited because one of the senators at the very first one at the NHCC, he said, I want to fill this room, full of kids. I want them to see this. I want them to learn to appreciate water and acequias. And we finally made that happen. It's coming up in 2 weeks. And, yeah, we're just hoping that people, the younger generation, will learn to appreciate them and see them more than just ditches, which is what a lot of the young people who have come up to me afterwards. I just my dad was always hounding me about appreciating it. Like I couldn't, leave, Ojos Arco fast enough, which is, near Taos. And when I saw your film, she said I got so emotional. I quit my job. She was working for Albuquerque Visitors and moved back up to Taos. And she said her dad just like, they had an emotional meeting because he thought he was going to die without her appreciating the Acequias. I'm sorry, I get emotional because it was just such a beautiful story that she said, I've gone back and now my generation, she said, I'm teaching them she says my own boys. And my dad is just so happy because she goes, I learned that I didn't only have one acequia, but I had 3 acequias to look after. And she goes, I couldn't be prouder when I thought it was just a ditch that required cleaning and, just crap that she didn't want to deal with. Now she's like so honored that after seeing this film, and it's changed a lot of minds. And that was my whole goal for this. But my time is up and I'll be around. I'm going to be here all day if anybody else has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Aracely.